NAXI ancient music, today it is called a living fossil of China. It came originally from the Central Plains, but has been kept alive for the past few centuries deep in the country's southwest. What is the secret to its popularity there? And in the face of other more aggressive incursions from the Central Plains, how have the NAXI people protected themselves? Please watch the second episode of Legend of the NAXI People.
In a letter to National Geographic editor Ralph A. Graves in 1931, Rock described his life. There are no factories or cars here, and no one rushes around all day like they do in an industrial society. Here, there is no economic depression and no unrest and turbulence of war like there are in China's East Coast and Shanghai. It's like we live on the moon. We eat the vegetables we grow and the animals we raise. Rock was constantly taking photographs of the mountain and village, and he captured some endearing images of the villagers as they went about their daily business. A photograph of 3 young NAXI women shows 2 on the left who are still single and 1 on the right who is married. On festive occasions, unmarried women wore Chinese-style hats, while married women wore their hair in a bun wrapped in a scarf. The 3 women in the photograph are all wearing traditional dress. This typical NAXI costume has an interesting name, Stars and Moon Dress.
现在大家看到的就是我们纳西族的传统服饰。那么在这套服饰当中呢，最有特色的也就是这一块羊皮披肩了。在披肩上呢，左边绣着一个太阳，右边绣着一个月亮，在腰部还绣着7个代表7颗星星的绣片。它的意思呢是肩挑日月，背负7星。古时候呢，纳西族的男子经常外出经商，那么所有生产劳动的农活呢，就落在了妇女的身上。 他们起早贪黑，辛勤劳作，可还是无法将活干完。于是他们将星星、月亮连同太阳呢一起绣在了披肩上，希望呢这样可以星星、月亮永长生，白天夜晚干活忙。这种无法实现的愿望呢，最终形成了我们纳西族披星戴月的传统服饰，象征着纳西族妇女勤劳能干、任劳任怨的优秀品质。那么现在呢，大多数披肩上呢已经看不到了日和月，只剩下了7颗星。 这是因为在清朝的时候呢，清政府忌讳日月为名，所以就把日和月这个绣片去掉了。
Today, only the older NAXI people regularly wear the traditional clothing. Young people wear it just on festivals and holidays. This photograph of a NAXI man wearing a felt hat and sheepskin waistcoat was also taken by Joseph Rock. There is little difference with what most Chinese men wore at the time. But what did set NAXI men apart was their reluctance to do hard manual work. It was common for the men to take care of the children while their wives were toiling in the fields. On July the 23rd, 2006, movie director Zhang Yimou and his two assistant directors Wang Qiaoge and Fan Yue premiered a lavish outdoor song and dance spectacular called Impression Lijiang. In it, they portray NAXI women as hard-working and capable and prepared to put up with all the hardship life imposes on them. After settling in the Lijiang area 1,000 years ago, the NAXI gradually changed the economic basis of their livelihood. With time, they became farmers. However, their holidays and customs remained rooted in their nomadic past. Every year, on the 8th day of the 2nd month by the lunar calendar, NAXI people from far and wide make their way to northern Holy Peak Temple to offer sacrifices to the god Sanduo. To the NAXI people, Sanduo is the embodiment of Jade Dragon Snow Mountain. He is a hero who will fight for a just cause and always come to the help of the NAXI people when they are in need. Because of this belief, the NAXI have for hundreds of years regarded the mountain as their guardian spirit. The Sanduo festival is for NAXI people, wherever they may be living, the most important day of the year. Apart from the religious observances, they organize cultural and recreational activities. As the holiday falls at a time when the camellia flowers are in bloom, another tradition of the day is long walks in nature. During the holidays, NAXI ancient music bands are particularly busy. Joseph Rock witnessed just such a scene as this over 80 years ago.
NAXI ancient music, today it is called a living fossil of China. It came originally from the Central Plains, but has been kept alive for the past few centuries deep in the country's southwest. What is the secret to its popularity there? And in the face of other more aggressive incursions from the Central Plains, how have the NAXI people protected themselves? Please watch the 2nd episode of Legend of the NAXI People.
Joseph Rock wrote, "There was a time when I had the good fortune to frequently listen to performances of a NAXI ancient music band. There's a folk band on Sifang Street that plays along the river near the bridge. They also play at the inn where the horse caravan traders stay." Rock's diary indicates how popular the NAXI ancient music bands were. Still today, elderly NAXI people regularly gather together to provide their own entertainment, which naturally includes traditional NAXI music. In the old town of Dayan, near the city of Lijiang, musicians gather every evening to perform NAXI ancient music for tourists. The youngest of the people on the stage is around 70 years old. and the oldest is 84. They are keeping NAXI ancient music alive. Most of their instruments are over 100 years old, and the music they play dates back to the 14th century. This music originated on China's Central Plains, but long ago disappeared from there. It was brought to Yunnan in the early years of the Ming Dynasty in the 14th century and has been preserved there ever since. The term NAXI ancient music is in fact an abbreviated version of its full name. Officially, it is known as the ancient music inherited, preserved and carried forward over the ages by the NAXI ethnic group. Today it's termed a living fossil of traditional Chinese music. This music, though over 500 years old, has never lost its appeal to the NAXI people. Many of the towns and villages in Yulong NAXI Autonomous County have their own bands such as this one. They perform at weekends and on holidays. During the 27 years he spent living in the Lijiang area, Joseph Rock was not always the only foreigner in the area. In 1941, almost 20 years after Rock arrived, a Russian of French descent by the name of Peter Goyard arrived. Goyard was a great admirer of Rock and translated many of his manuscripts for him. The two men became good friends. Goyard developed a deep love of NAXI music, and in his book Forgotten Kingdom, an account of the 9 years he lived in the area, he offers this appraisal of NAXI music. It was a recital of the cosmic life as it was unfolding in its grandeur, unmarred by the discordant wails and crashes of petty human existence. If it appeared monotonous to people who could not understand it, it was because their hearts had not reached the right equilibrium and level of stability. It seems that everything in the land of the NAXI exerted some sort of magnetic attraction on both Rock and Goyard. The beautiful landscapes, the unique ethnic culture, and the honest and kindly NAXI people all occupied a place in their hearts. Both men finally left China in 1949. And they took with them memories they would cherish forever. Just 2 weeks after his departure, Rock wrote the following to a friend. I'm going to keep an eye on developments, and if things return to normal, I will go back to the Lijiang area to finish my work. I would rather die surrounded by fresh flowers on Jade Dragon Snow Mountain than lying on a dreary bed in a hospital. Sadly, however, Rock was unable to realize his dream. He never set foot in China again. Back in the United States, however, he wrote The Ancient NAXI Kingdom of Southwest China. He died of heart disease in 1962. Another photograph taken by Joseph Rock shows a man holding a child. This child is a direct descendant of Mubao Atung, a 13th century chieftain of the NAXI people. The boy's name is Mu Guang. Today, the little boy in the picture is in his 80s. He retired long ago, but he remains quite active. Spends much of his time reading about history and writing about the exploits of his forefathers. In 2006, Mu Guang published a book, The Ups and Downs of the Mu royal family. In it, he traces the history of 34 generations of his family. The NAXI people, having settled in the Lijiang area during the Tang dynasty over 1,000 years ago, were surrounded by Tang China to the east, the kingdom of Nanjiao to the south, and the kingdom of Tubo to the north. However, their situation improved significantly during the Song dynasty, when the Tubo kingdom collapsed. Nanjiao descended into chaos, and Song China became preoccupied with the Mongol threat from the north. This gave the NAXI people their opportunity to unite under a single ruler and to develop independently. The man they chose as their chieftain was Mu Bao Azong.
先祖母豹阿仲是一个具有神秘色彩的人物。他7岁的时候，在没有老师指导的情况下，就能认识汉文。他成长以后的话呢，他精通各个部落的语言，所以他的部属们都认为他是一个具有操凡能力的人。
Mu Bao Azong had succeeded his foster father, Mulur Mu Bao, as commander-in-chief of the army. He was an honest, revered and charismatic leader, and the many independent NAXI clans all pledged their allegiance to him. And yet, the story of Mu Bao Azong's birth suggests that he didn't originally belong to the NAXI ethnic group at all. Historical records say his father came from Western Mongolia in the early years of the 13th century.
他呢，有这样一种传说，原来呢，他是在奎律山呢一个边境的地方的话呢，正在倒坐的时候。突然间的话呢，看见了一个蛟龙。这个时候呢，就是风雨雷都是交叉，这个爆发了。在这样的情况下的话呢，他的话呢抱着一棵大树，在金沙尖上这个漂浮，漂流到了一个叫做白兰场的地方。
NAXI ancient music. Today it is called a living fossil of China. It came originally from the Central Plains, but has been kept alive for the past few centuries deep in the country's southwest. What is the secret to its popularity there? And in the face of other, more aggressive incursions from the Central Plains, how have the NAXI people protected themselves? Please watch the second episode of Legend of the NAXI People.
A NAXI clan was living in the Beilangtang area. Their leader, highly impressed by this strange person arriving in such a bizarre manner, had before long given him his daughter in marriage.
之后呢，他们就生了一个儿子，取名阿忠。之后呢，这个当时呢，大将军这个 没落没报，见到敖总啊，聪明过人，所以呢，把他这个作为养子来继承他的职务。
In accordance with the NAXI custom of linking the names of father and son, the boy's name was changed. Mu Bao, from his father's name, was placed before his given name, Zong. Hence his name, Mu Bao Zong. Under Mu Bao Zong's leadership, the various NAXI clans were united. Following his death, he was succeeded by his son Zong Liang. However, in 1253, when Kublai Khan led his Mongol army south to conquer the kingdom of Dali, it seemed the peace the NAXI people had enjoyed for 500 years was about to be shattered.
但是呢，蒙古大军呢，这个压境离间。可是呢，宗亮呢，没有做抵抗，相反，这个大力他的下属去到这个虎口这个烽火渡口去迎接忽必烈，帮助蒙古大军呢顺利的渡过了金沙江。这就是远跨格纳的历史。
The NAXI had taken the hides of cows and sheep, sewn them up tightly and filled them with air so that the rafts could float on them. Zong Liang himself had come up with this plan after the Mongol army's southward advance had been halted by the Jinsha River. Historical records indicate that Kublai Khan crossed the Jinsha where the village of Gukongmei now lies. Gukongmei, in the NAXI language, actually means ferry crossing. And still today, remnants can be seen of the Mongol army's command platform. The words, "inflated skins crossing," are carved on the cliffs along one side of the river in characters large enough to be seen from a great distance away. Inflated animal skins were still being used to float ferries across rivers in this area in the early 20th century. In fact, Joseph Rock himself used this method. But the rapid development of transport in the past few decades has led the NAXI people to abandon this traditional method devised by their old king, Zong Liang. After the Mongol army crossed the Jinsha River, they were confronted by a sheer mountain. This, so legend has it, was the tail of Jade Dragon Snow Mountain. Zong Liang led the Mongol army through a pass in the mountain. He later named it Labor Taizé Guan, or Senior Prince Pass, in honor of Kublai Khan.
宗亮帮助忽必烈渡过了金沙江之后，他就跟随蒙古大军参加了征讨大理国的战役。那么当时他的话呢，被忽必烈任命为骁遣部队的指挥官。在战斗当中的话呢，起护了这个大理国王段兴之，为了加减宗的亮呢这个辉煌的功绩，所以呢，忽必烈就提升他为副元帅。之后呢，又封为紫金官禄大夫 统军师而且的话呢，打了一品官。
For 500 years, a legendary family held sway over the NAXI people of China's southwest. They built a celebrated mansion for themselves, modeled on a famous palace in faraway Beijing. But why were they so reluctant to let even the most distinguished visitors see inside it? And what finally brought about the downfall of this powerful family? Find out in episode 3 of Legend of the NAXI People.